Welcome to Reddit's for Sleep, where true stories and soothing narration help you drift off peacefully. If this video brings you calm, consider tapping the like button, and if you're new here, subscribe for a new relaxing story every night. Now, let's ease into tonight's first story. Story 1, The Birthday Surprise. That backfired. So, this happened a couple of months ago, but it still crosses my mind sometimes, especially when I think about how well I thought things were going. It was my girlfriend's birthday. We've been dating for a little over 2 years now, and this was the first year I really felt like I wanted to go all out. Not because I had to, but because I wanted her to feel special. You know that kind of quiet excitement you get when you think you nailed something? Well, that was me. I'd been planning this for weeks. She'd always been a bit private about her past, so I tried to focus on what I did know. She liked small, meaningful things over flashy gifts. I remembered her saying once that no one had ever really thrown her a birthday party, not even a small one, and how birthdays usually just passed like any other day. That stuck with me. So I organized a little surprise gathering at her favorite cafe. I invited a few of her closest friends, decorated the place in soft pastels, her favorite color palette, and even managed to get the bakery she loved as a kid to deliver her favorite lemon vanilla cake. I set it all up to happen around sunset. The time of day she always says feels the calmest to her. I was honestly proud of myself. The day comes. She thought we were just going out for a quiet dinner. I kept things low-key, even dressed down a bit so she wouldn't suspect anything. But when we got to the cafe and everyone yelled, "Surprise!" her face didn't light up like I expected. It kind of froze, just for a second, and then she smiled, just a little too quickly. She thanked everyone, hugged her friends, and even laughed at a couple of jokes, but something felt off. At first, I chalked it up to nerves. Maybe she was just overwhelmed. Some people don't love being the center of attention, right? But as the night went on, I noticed she kept stepping outside for air, staying quiet during group conversations, and barely touched her cake. I started feeling this heavy lump in my chest, like I'd gotten something really wrong. After everyone left and we were alone again, I asked her gently if everything was okay. I didn't push, just waited. She was quiet for a long moment, then let out this long breath and said something that stayed with me. She said, "I know you meant well, and I really do appreciate it, but birthdays are hard for me. Growing up, they weren't happy days. There was usually yelling, disappointment, sometimes worse. So I learned not to expect anything, and honestly, I just feel safer treating them like any other day. I'm not used to having people celebrate me like that. It makes me feel exposed." She wasn't angry, just tired, a little emotional. And I felt like the biggest idiot in the world, not because I did something terrible, but because I hadn't asked. I assumed I could fix a sadness I didn't fully understand. We ended the night just sitting together on the couch, a blanket over our legs, listening to soft music. No talking, no pressure, just quiet comfort. And in that silence, I realized that love isn't about grand gestures all the time. Sometimes it's about knowing when not to do something, when to listen instead of plan, when to hold space instead of trying to fill it. Since then, we've talked more openly about her past, slowly, gently. She's even started sharing little stories from childhood, some painful, some sweet, and I've learned to stop trying to fix everything and instead just be there, present, kind, consistent. This year taught me something important. The best way to make someone feel loved isn't always through a big surprise. Sometimes it's through the quiet promise that you'll meet them where they are. No expectations, no pressure, just love in its softest form. And yeah, we still laugh about how I smuggled an entire cake into a cafe without her noticing. So at least I got that part right. And that was the end of our first story tonight. If you're enjoying these soothing tales so far, don't forget to subscribe to Reddit's for Sleep so you never miss a night of peaceful storytelling. If one of the stories has already helped you relax, please give this video a like. It really supports the channel and lets me know you want more. And if you feel like sharing, drop a comment below about which story touched you most or what kind of stories help you unwind best. Now, settle in as we move on to our next calming story. Story 2, moving in, moving on. So, a little background first. I'd been dating my girlfriend, Maya, for about 1.5 years before we decided to move in together. We met through a mutual friend, started talking, clicked almost instantly, and the rest just kind of unfolded from there. She lived about 1.5 hours away from me, so most of our relationship had been weekend visits, late night calls, and long texts during work breaks. Eventually, we both got tired of the distance. Every Sunday night, drop-off felt like pulling a warm blanket off too soon. We'd just get comfortable, and then one of us would have to leave. So when her lease came up for renewal, we talked about it seriously. I had a place with a flexible landlord, a quiet 2-bedroom apartment near both our jobs. We ran the numbers, made a budget, and finally, after a lot of late-night conversations, she moved in with me. At first, it was exciting. There was this buzz in the air, like we were starting a new chapter together. Unpacking boxes felt like opening gifts. Her things next to mine, our mugs in the same cabinet, her books next to mine on the shelves. It was surreal in the best way. But then, life settled in, and that's when the real work began. You don't really notice how different two people are until you share a space 24/7. I'm a quiet early riser who likes to ease into my day. Coffee, silence, maybe some light jazz in the background. She's more of a night owl, full of energy after dark, scrolling TikTok with the volume up, binge watching shows until 2 a.m. I'm someone who likes everything in its place. She likes organized chaos. Except sometimes it's just chaos. It wasn't anything explosive, no shouting matches or dramatic fights, but it was constant friction, like a pebble in your shoe that you keep walking on because it's not that bad. But it's also never fully comfortable. Dirty dishes left to soak, towels mysteriously always damp, chargers mysteriously always disappearing. At first I tried to silently adjust. I'd clean up without saying anything. I'd move my bedtime later, even though I was dead tired. I'd nod and smile when she asked if I liked her new throw pillows, even if I missed the minimalist vibe I had before. But after a while, it started wearing me down. I wasn't upset with her. I was more upset with myself for not saying anything. I didn't want to seem ungrateful or controlling. I just didn't know how to ask for a little space without sounding like I regretted the whole move. One night, it kind of came to a head. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet one. She found me sitting on the balcony, wrapped in a hoodie, sipping tea, even though it was too hot for tea. She sat beside me, looked out into the night, and said, "This isn't how you thought it would go, is it?" I looked at her. She wasn't angry, just thoughtful, maybe a little sad. And I admitted it, not in a complaining tone, just softly, that I was feeling overwhelmed. I told her I loved having her there. But I missed my quiet mornings. I missed feeling like the apartment was a calm space. I told her I didn't expect her to change completely, but didn't know how to balance her world with mine. She listened, really listened. And then she told me something I hadn't realized. She was also struggling. She felt like she was intruding on my space, like a guest trying too hard not to step on toes. She missed being able to spread out her makeup in the bathroom without feeling like she was taking over. She missed being in a space that felt like hers too. That conversation changed everything. The next day, we sat down and made what we jokingly called a peace treaty. It was just a handwritten list on printer paper of small compromises. Morning quiet hours until 8 a.m., shared cleaning days on Sundays, headphones after midnight, a second laundry basket to avoid the laundry chair argument. We even designated one of the bedrooms as a personal recharge space. No talking, no noise, just a place to retreat if either of us needed a moment. It wasn't perfect overnight, but it made a world of difference. And more than the logistics, it was the act of creating it together that brought us closer. We were no longer trying to fit in with each other's ways. We were building new ways together. It felt less like I had a roommate and more like I had a true partner in the messy, beautiful process of creating a shared life. Now, months later, the apartment feels different. More lived in, more balanced. Her plants are thriving by the window, and my old vinyl collection plays on weekend mornings. The place smells like both of our favorite candles. It's no longer just my apartment with her in it. It's ours, built slowly, patiently, and with care. And maybe that's what love is. Not the big, sweeping moments or even the perfect compatibility, but two people learning to make space for each other, literally and emotionally, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Looking back, moving in wasn't the end of the honeymoon phase. It was the beginning of something more real and, strangely, more comforting, because nothing says I'm here for the long haul. Like figuring out how to live with someone and still find peace, laughter, and quiet joy at the end of the day. Even if the towels still somehow end up damp every morning. Story 3, the silent treatment. This story isn't loud or dramatic. There's no screaming, no door slamming, no big betrayal, just silence. The kind that creeps in when two people who love each other stop talking for a while. And for a moment, it felt like the silence might stay forever. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were usually our slow night. We'd eat dinner early, light a candle or two, her little ritual, not mine, and we'd both work on our laptops while some lo-fi music played in the background. It was a kind of routine that felt soft and safe, familiar, like the rhythm of a quiet life. That night, something was just different. It wasn't even a fight. Not really, just a moment, a shift in the air. We were talking about something small, groceries, I think. She mentioned that I always forget to get her almond milk, even though it's on the list. I joked, a little too flatly, well, maybe if you texted it instead of writing it in that barely legible cursive of yours, I'd remember. She looked up at me. It wasn't a glare, just this look, like disappointment, like maybe she'd been carrying a little more weight lately, and my words added a bit more to the load. She didn't respond, just went back to typing. And that was it. I thought she was just tired. I figured she'd say something later, maybe after dinner when we were brushing our teeth, or the next morning over coffee. But the next morning came, and she was quiet. No good morning. No sarcastic jokes about my bed hair, just silence, with the clinking of a spoon against her mug. At first I didn't think much of it. I assumed it would pass. She was probably just moody. I gave her space. We'd had quiet days before, days where the world just felt too loud and we both retreated into our thoughts. But this was different. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was tense, tight, like a room filled with fog that neither of us wanted to walk through. By the third day, I started to feel it. I missed her laugh. I missed her humming. While brushing her hair, I missed the way she'd lean into my shoulder during movies without saying anything. I even missed the silly arguments over what to order for dinner. It wasn't just about almond milk anymore. It was about something unspoken growing between us. But I didn't know how to break silence. I'd open my mouth to speak, then close it again. What if she wasn't ready? What if I said the wrong thing and made it worse? So instead, I washed the dishes more often. I folded the laundry without being asked. I tried to show her, in small ways, that I noticed her, that I cared. But still, no words. And honestly, the silence started to hurt. It made me question things, not just the relationship, but myself. Had I been too passive, too dismissive, Was I showing up the way I thought I was, or was I just coasting through, assuming things would always be fine? One night, about a week later, I couldn't take it anymore. We were sitting on opposite sides of the couch. The TV was on, but neither of us was watching. I turned it off. The room went still. I said, quietly, "I miss you." She didn't look up right away, just sat there, legs curled up under her, eyes staring at nothing. And then finally she whispered, "I didn't want to make it a big deal, but that joke, it made me feel like you don't really listen." It wasn't about the almond milk. It was about all the times I brushed things off, all the times I thought I was being funny or lighthearted, when really I was dismissing the small moments she was trying to share. She wasn't mad. She was hurt, and she didn't know how to say it without feeling like she was making a mountain out of a molehill. So instead, she said nothing, and I followed her into the quiet. We talked that night, slowly, carefully. No raised voices, just two people trying to understand each other again. I told her I was sorry, not just for the comment, but for not noticing sooner, for assuming that space meant healing when sometimes space just means distance. I told her I'd try to be more present, to really hear her, even in the little things, especially in the little things. And she smiled, small, tired, but real. "I just needed to know you cared enough to ask." The silence didn't disappear instantly, but over the next few days, it softened. We spoke more, laughed again. The fog lifted, slowly. And things started to feel like home again. What I learned is that silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's a quiet cry for connection. And love, real love, means leaning in when things go quiet. Gently, patiently, and without ego. Sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing. But the most powerful thing you can do is break the silence. Story 4. The ring she found. I never thought a piece of jewelry could cause so much confusion. It was a Sunday morning, quiet and slow like most of our weekends. The windows were cracked open just enough to let in the early breeze, and I was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes while humming an old song my mom used to play on the radio. My girlfriend Lila had gotten up earlier than usual. She said she wanted to tidy up the bedroom closet. I didn't think much of it. Until I heard her call my name from the bedroom. There wasn't anything sharp in her voice, just this strange, unreadable tone. Like she wasn't sure whether to be annoyed, amused, or something else entirely. "Hey, can you come here a sec?" I turned off the stove and walked down the hall, wiping my hands on a towel. I found her sitting on the edge of the bed, holding something small in her palm, a little black velvet box. Inside was a ring, not flashy, just a simple silver band with a small emerald stone. It had a slightly worn look, like it had been around longer than we had. "Is this yours?" she asked, holding it up between two fingers. My heart dropped for a second. Not because I was guilty, but because I instantly knew what it looked like. It looked like a secret I had no idea I was keeping. I blinked, trying to place it, and then it hit me. "That's my mom's," I said slowly. "She gave it to me before she passed. I forgot it was in there." Lila didn't say anything right away. She just stared at the ring like it might tell her something I wasn't. Now, for context, my mom passed away about 3 years ago. Cancer, quick and quiet. She was the kind of woman who didn't want a fuss made. I'd inherited a few of her things, most of which I'd stored away because it hurt too much to see them every day. The ring was one of those things. At the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. It was too small for me to wear, and it felt too personal to leave lying around. So I tucked it into a box and slid it to the back of a drawer. And then, over time, I forgot about it. To me, it wasn't just a ring. It was her. The way she'd wear it when she made tea, the way it caught the sunlight in the garden, the quiet weight of her presence wrapped in metal and stone. But, to Lila, in that moment, it looked like a ring meant for someone else. I sat down beside her, and there was this weird stillness between us, like we were both waiting for the other person to say something that would make everything make sense. She finally said, "I thought maybe you'd bought it for me, and then changed your mind." Her voice wasn't accusatory. It was soft, maybe even a little embarrassed, but I could feel the layers beneath it. Wondering, worrying, all those invisible questions. Was I committed? Was I having second thoughts? Was I hiding something? And suddenly I felt terrible. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I hadn't anticipated how it might feel for her to find a ring hidden in a drawer and not know its story. So I told her everything about my mom, about the last conversation we had before the hospital took her, about how she'd handed me that ring and said, "Don't give this to anyone unless you really mean it." It wasn't an engagement ring. It was more of a keepsake. A memory. A soft warning, maybe, from someone who'd lived through love and heartbreak. Lila sat quietly through all of it. I think she could tell I wasn't just telling her a story. I was letting her into a part of me I hadn't really opened before. After a while, she gently placed the ring back in the box and closed it. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to snoop. I was just organizing, and it caught me off guard." I shook my head. "No, I get it. I should have told you it was in there. I didn't think it mattered. But now I realize maybe it does." We sat there for a long moment, the box resting between us. It wasn't about the ring anymore. It was about trust, timing, and all the things that go unsaid in relationships until something makes them come to the surface. Eventually, she leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. I wrapped my arm around her, feeling the weight of her in that quiet, familiar way. Later that day, I took the box and moved it to a different drawer. One we both share, not because I was giving her the ring, but because I wanted her to know it wasn't hidden anymore. It wasn't a secret. It was part of my story. And now, it was part of ours too. Sometimes the things we bury aren't meant to be hidden forever. They just need the right time, the right person, and the right silence to bring them gently into the light. And maybe that ring, with all its memory and weight, won't ever be worn again. Or maybe one day, it will. Story 5. I almost proposed. Then I didn't. I bought the ring 6 months before I almost used it. It was the kind of decision that felt like the most natural thing in the world. No big moment, no dramatic, internal debate. Just a quiet confidence that this was it, that she was it. Her name was Emma. We'd been together for almost 3 years at that point, the kind of relationship that didn't need loud declarations. It was built on shared Sunday mornings, quiet car rides where we didn't need to talk, and inside jokes that lasted for months. She was the kind of person who made life feel less like a to-do list and more like a long exhale. I remember the day I bought the ring. I was walking past this little family-run jeweler downtown. I wasn't even planning to shop for one yet. But I saw it in the window. Simple, understated. A single round diamond set in a smooth gold band. No embellishments, just classic and elegant. Like her. I walked in, asked to see it, and within 10 minutes, it was mine. I didn't even bargain. I just knew. The plan was to propose on our anniversary. We always took a trip, nothing extravagant, usually somewhere cozy, nature nearby, no Wi-Fi. That year, it was a lakeside cabin, firewood, big windows, and the kind of quiet you don't get in the city. I packed the ring in the bottom of my duffel bag, wrapped in a pair of socks. It felt surreal knowing it was there, Every time she leaned over to grab something from the bag, my stomach would twist, thinking she'd accidentally find it. The first night at the cabin was perfect. We cooked pasta together, laughed over spilled wine, and played a card game we hadn't touched in ages. She wore this oversized sweater I always teased her about. I remember staring at her thinking, this is the exact moment I want to hold on to forever. But I didn't propose that night. I wanted to wait, build the suspense a little more, maybe the second night, or maybe during a walk by the lake, with leaves crunching underfoot. But then, something shifted. It was subtle, small things at first. She seemed distracted, her smile a little shorter, her responses slightly delayed. I brushed it off. Maybe she was tired from the drive. Maybe her mind was on work. But that night, as we lay in bed under the thick cabin blanket, she didn't curl into me like she usually did. She just lay there, facing the window, quiet. The next morning, over coffee, she asked if we could talk. And I knew. I knew before she said a word that the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I'd pictured 100 different ways, wasn't coming. She started slow, cautiously. She said she'd been feeling something shift for a while. That she loved me. Deeply, fully. But something felt off lately. Not broken, just misaligned. Like we were out of sync, and neither of us had noticed until the stillness of the cabin made it loud. She told me she felt like we were growing in different directions, like we'd stopped dreaming together, that we were kind, good, supportive. But something was missing, and she didn't want to ignore it anymore. I listened. I didn't interrupt. My heart felt heavy, but there was no anger, just the sinking weight of knowing that sometimes love alone isn't enough to hold two people together in the way you hope it will. I didn't tell her about the ring. What would have been the point? We spent the rest of the trip like two people floating near the surface of something deep. We didn't argue. We still cooked. Still sat on the porch with mugs of tea. Still watched the sunset in silence. But we knew. When we got back home, she stayed for another week, just to sort her things. We tried to keep it warm, tried not to make it feel like a breakup with sharp edges. She left a note on my nightstand the morning she moved out. Just 3 lines. Thank you for being my safe place. I will always love who we were. Please take care of yourself. I kept that note, still have it, tucked away in a drawer beside the ring. As for the ring, I never returned it. Not because I thought we'd get back together, and not because I was holding on to hope, but because I needed time to let go of what it symbolized. It wasn't just a ring, it was every Sunday morning, every quiet laugh, every plan that never made it past the dreaming stage. A few months later, I gave it to my sister. Not to wear, but to hold on to. She's sentimental like that. I told her I wasn't ready to have it near me, but I also wasn't ready to let it go. She understood. Now, years later, I've moved on. I've healed in my own way. I've even found someone new. Someone wonderful. But every once in a while, when I pass that little jeweler downtown, I still glance at the window, not with sadness, just with a quiet sort of gratitude. Because sometimes, the most powerful moments in life are the ones that almost happen. And sometimes, not proposing is the most loving thing you'll ever do. Story 6. The stranger in my apartment. When you've been with someone for years, there's this assumption that you know them, really know them. The way they stir their coffee, the way they sigh when they're deep in thought, the way they always fall asleep on the left side of the bed, even in hotel rooms. But sometimes, one day, you look at them, and it's like you're seeing a stranger. It had been 4 years. Her name was Nadia. We met in a bookstore, which already sounds like fiction. She reached for the same used copy of a Murakami novel, and we both laughed awkwardly. I let her take it, even though I had already read it. And That moment, that small gesture, became the quiet start of something real. Our relationship was gentle. That's the word I keep coming back to. It wasn't passionate in the movie scene sense. It wasn't fireworks and dramatic airport chases. It was soft mornings, folded laundry, handwritten notes left in lunch bags, and the occasional forehead kiss when one of us had a hard day. We moved in together in our second year, a small apartment overlooking a park, the kind where the trees brushed against the balcony railing. It was peaceful. We were peaceful. And I think that's why I didn't notice when the stillness began to feel cold. The shift was gradual. Like watching paint fade, you don't see it happening until one day. The color just looks different. At first, it was the way she stopped humming in the kitchen. Nadia always hummed. Not to a specific song, just random melodies. She used to do it while chopping onions or rinsing fruit. But one day, I realized I hadn't heard that soft background music in weeks. Then it was the way she touched me. Or didn't. Not in a dramatic way. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, still curled up beside me at night, but there was a certain weight missing. No lingering fingertips, no spontaneous hugs from behind while I was washing dishes. One night, I came home from work a bit later than usual. The lights were on in the apartment, but the place felt hollow. Nadia was sitting on the couch, knees pulled up to her chest, reading a book. She looked up and smiled, not a fake smile, but not the kind that reached her eyes either. "How was your day?" she asked. "Fine. Yours?" Quiet. We ate dinner in near silence. I remember the clinking of forks against plates sounding louder than usual. That night, I couldn't sleep. She fell asleep beside me, curled inward, back to me, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't reach over to hold her. The next morning, I made her tea. She liked chamomile. I brought it to her, and she thanked me, but her voice felt distant, like someone trying to be polite at a dinner party. I sat on the edge of the bed and just watched her for a moment. She was scrolling through her phone. Same person, same features, same sleepy eyes and chipped nail polish. But I felt like I was sitting beside someone I didn't recognize. "Nadia," I said, slowly. She looked up. "Are we okay?" She blinked. A beat passed, then another, and finally she put her phone down and exhaled not dramatically, but like someone letting go of a weight they'd been carrying silently. "I don't know," she whispered. That was it. That one sentence felt like a pin to a balloon. We talked. Quietly, honestly, no yelling, no blame, just two people laying cards on the table. She said she still loved me, that she wasn't seeing anyone else, that there was no specific moment when things felt wrong, just a slow drift. Like two boats tethered together, but the rope had loosened over time. I told her I felt it too, that I missed her even when she was right next to me, that the apartment, once full of shared breath and warmth, now echoed with routine. We didn't break up that day. We didn't even cry. Instead, we made tea and sat on the balcony in silence, watching the trees sway. That became our new ritual for the next few weeks. Quiet mornings, honest evenings. We started therapy, separately first, then together. We didn't want to give up, but we also didn't want to lie to ourselves. Some days were hopeful. Others, not so much. But slowly, gently, we started finding each other again. It wasn't like flipping a switch. It was more like planting a seed and waiting, unsure if it would sprout. She started humming again. And one morning, as I poured coffee, she wrapped her arms around me from behind the way she used to and rested her chin on my shoulder. "I miss this," she said softly. I didn't say anything. I just turned around, cupped her face in my hands, and kissed her forehead. We still have that ring Murakami book. It sits on a shelf in the living room. Every now and then, one of us picks it up and flips through it. smiling at the scribbled notes and underlined sentences. Sometimes the person you love becomes a stranger. But sometimes if you both choose to stay, that stranger becomes someone new, someone deeper, someone realer than before. And love, real love, is recognizing the stranger in your own home and saying, I still want to know you. Story 7, she waited for me to speak first. There's something about silence between two people who used to talk about everything. At first it's comforting, familiar. You can sit next to each other for hours without saying a word, and it doesn't feel like anything's missing. But eventually, that same silence can start to feel like a wall. Neither of you wants to admit is there. Her name was Hannah. We met in college. I was the guy in the back row with earbuds in during lectures. And she was the girl who always raised her hand first. I remember the first time she laughed at something I said. It was the kind of laugh that makes you want to be funnier, just so you can hear it again. We dated for 5 years, moved in together after 2, talked about marriage around year 4. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't slow. It felt like something that just unfolded naturally. We built a rhythm. Sunday groceries, Tuesday laundry, movie nights on Fridays with the same blanket, even in summer. People used to tell us we were solid, that we were one of the good ones. I believed them. But somewhere in year 5, we stopped having real conversations. We still spoke, sure. Who's picking up the groceries? Did you remember to pay the water bill? Do you want rice or pasta tonight? But the little things, the how did that make you feel? Or what are you scared of lately? Those started fading. I don't think we noticed it at first. It wasn't like someone flipped a switch. It was more like a gentle fading, like background music being turned down slowly until you forget there was ever a song playing. I remember the exact moment I realized something was wrong. It was a Wednesday night. We had both gotten home, late from work. She was sitting at the table, scrolling through her phone, a cup of tea in front of her. I was heating leftovers. The room was dim, just one kitchen light on. I looked at her and thought, she looks tired. I almost asked her about her day. Almost. But I didn't. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't sure if she'd really tell me, and I hated that I felt that way. So I sat down across from her, started eating, and we shared the kind of small talk you have with coworkers. Polite, surface level, safe. Then she said something I didn't expect. Do you even want to be here? I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. What? I asked, blinking. She didn't look up from her phone. You haven't really spoken to me in weeks. I mean, really spoken. I put the fork down. I didn't know you wanted me to, I said quietly. That made her look up. I always want you to, she replied. There was a long silence, the kind that stretches out and fills a room. Not awkward, just heavy. I guess I thought you didn't want to talk either, I admitted. And then she said the words that stayed with me for a long time after. I was waiting for you to speak first. She said it so simply, not accusingly, just like it was the truth. And it was. We both sat there in that dimly lit kitchen, two people sitting across from each other, both thinking the other didn't want to reach out first. How many times had we both stared at each other, willing the other person to break the silence? How many small hurts had we brushed aside, hoping they'd heal on their own? How many days had we let pass, thinking, maybe tomorrow we'll talk again like we used to? That night, we finally did. We talked until the tea was cold and the leftovers were forgotten. We talked about the drift, how it scared us both, how work had been stressful, how we were tired, not of each other, but of pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. We cried a little, we laughed a little too, remembering how we used to dance, barefoot in the kitchen, while waiting for the kettle to boil. That night didn't fix everything, but it was a start, a real one. In the weeks that followed, we made small changes. Daily check-ins, phones away during dinner, Sunday walks without a destination, just talking like we used to in college, when all we had was time and curiosity. We even created a rule. If either of us feels distant, we say something. No more waiting for the other to speak first. Years later, I still think about that Wednesday night, about how close we came to letting silence become a habit instead of a pause. Sometimes, love isn't lost in arguments or betrayal. Sometimes, it slips away quietly, unnoticed, in all the unsaid words. But sometimes, if you're lucky, someone speaks first. Or someone waits long enough for you to remember how. Story 8. When I accidentally became my girlfriend's secret keeper. I never thought a simple favor would pull me into something so complicated. It started innocently enough. My girlfriend Mara and I had been together for about a year, and things were smooth, quiet dinners, weekend walks, occasional movie nights. Nothing flashy, but steady and warm. One evening, Mara called me. Sounding nervous and distracted, she asked if I could hold on to something for her just for a little while. She wouldn't say what it was over the phone, only that it was important and personal. Curiosity piqued, but trusting her, I agreed. When she came over later that night, she handed me a small envelope, thick with folded papers and a few receipts. She looked relieved to pass the responsibility to me, like handing over a weight she'd been carrying alone. I didn't ask questions. I just tucked the envelope into my drawer and told her not to worry. Over the next few days, things felt a little different. Mara was quieter on the phone, a little distracted in person. One night, while she was asleep, I peeked inside the envelope. Inside were documents, medical reports, prescriptions, letters from doctors. I sat there, heart pounding, realizing Mara had been keeping a secret about her health. She was going through treatment for a chronic illness. I had no idea. The shock wasn't just in the secret itself, but in how deeply she had shielded me. Why hadn't she told me? When she woke up, I confronted her gently. She looked at me, tears welling up, and finally said, "I didn't want you to worry. I wanted to be strong for you. For us." We spent that night talking quietly under the soft glow of the bedside lamp. She explained the ups and downs of her diagnosis, the fear of being seen as weak or a burden, and how she wanted to protect our relationship from the weight of it all. I told her that sharing her burden wouldn't make her less strong, that I wanted to be there fully, no matter what. From that day forward, I became more than just her boyfriend. I was her secret keeper, her supporter, her quiet strength when she felt weak. I went to appointments, learned about her treatments, and became an active part of her healing journey. It wasn't always easy. Some days were heavy with uncertainty and fatigue, but there was a calmness in simply being present, in knowing that we faced the challenges together. Mara's courage taught me that love isn't just about the bright, happy moments. It's also about holding space for the quiet struggles, the fears whispered in the dark, and the unspoken promises made without words. And in holding her secret, I found a deeper kind of love, one built not just on smiles and laughter, but on trust, vulnerability, and unwavering support. Story 9. She never got rid of her ex's things, so I asked why. I've always believed that relationships are built on trust, but sometimes the little things test you in quiet ways. I moved in with my girlfriend, Alina, after a year and a half of dating. Things had been going well. We had this calm rhythm, morning coffee, shared laundry days, quiet dinners. There was no drama, no shouting. The apartment was already hers before I moved in, and I didn't expect her to change everything for me. But one day, while reorganizing the closet, I came across a shoebox. It was tucked behind some blankets, half covered, like it didn't want to be seen. I didn't open it, just picked it up and asked her if she wanted me to move it somewhere else. She paused for a second, then took it from my hands gently and said, "Oh, that's just some old stuff." I didn't press it, but something about her tone lingered in my head. Not cold, just hesitant. A week later, I noticed the box again. This time, it was slightly open. I saw a photo, her and someone else, smiling, on a beach. I didn't look deeper. I just closed the box and left it where it was. Later that night, while we were both reading on the couch, I asked her quietly, "Hey, about that box. Was that your ex?" She didn't answer right away. Then she nodded. "Yeah, it's from that part of my life. I didn't keep it because I miss him. I don't know. It felt weird to throw everything away." I sat with that. It didn't make me angry. Honestly, I understood. We all carry our past in different ways. But I told her gently, "I don't mind that you've kept it. I just want to know if there's any part of you still stuck in that time. I'm not asking for proof, just honesty." She looked at me, teary-eyed but calm, and said, "No, I'm not stuck there. I'm here, with you." That chapter just helped shape me into who I am now. That night, without any drama, she quietly took the box and put it in storage. Not because I asked her to, but because she wanted to move forward with me, fully. And I realize sometimes love isn't about making someone erase their past. It's about making them feel safe enough to let go of it when they're ready. Story 10. The silent goodbye when she moved out without telling me. I never thought I'd experience a goodbye without words. But that's exactly what happened. We had been living together for nearly 2 years, a small apartment in the city, the kind where you hear your neighbor's footsteps through the thin walls. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Her name was Emma, quiet, thoughtful, the kind of person whose presence made the space feel warmer without her having to say much. I loved how she'd hum softly while cooking, or how she always left little notes on the fridge for me, reminders, jokes, sometimes a simple "I love you." Life was steady. We had routines, morning coffee together, weekend walks in the park, late night talks about our dreams and fears. But over time, I noticed subtle changes. She was quieter, more distant. The notes stopped. Our talks became shorter, less frequent. I asked if something was wrong. She smiled and said she was just tired from work. I believed her. One day, I came home early from work, hoping to surprise her with dinner. The apartment was empty. No note, no sign of where she'd gone. Her clothes were gone, her toothbrush, the little things that made the apartment feel like home. I called her phone, went straight to voicemail, texted, no reply. Days turned into a week. I learned from a neighbor she had moved out late at night, taking only what she could carry. No forwarding address, no explanation. The silence was heavier than any argument. I wondered if I'd missed the signs. The quiet retreats. The tired eyes. Was I not enough? Did she feel trapped? I replayed every moment, searching for clues. The missed calls she never returned. The laughter that stopped. Eventually, I accepted that some goodbyes aren't said. Some endings happen in silence. I kept the notes she left behind on the fridge, faded now, but still holding her warmth. And slowly, I learned that sometimes love means letting go without answers. Trusting that healing comes with time, like rain washing away footprints on a quiet street. Thank you for listening to these quiet moments and stories tonight. If you enjoyed this gentle journey through real-life tales, told softly to help you drift off, please make sure to subscribe to Reddit's for Sleep. We create peaceful, 1-hour Reddit story videos, 10 calming stories in each, always with soothing rain in the background to help you relax, unwind, and fall asleep easier. If you found comfort in these stories, Please like this video and drop a comment below sharing which story was your favorite or how it helped you relax. Your support means the world and helps us keep creating more restful content for you. Sleep well, dream deep, and we'll see you again soon here at Reddit's for Sleep. Good night.